So here we are again, episode 3 of the Petainer podcast. For today's topic, we're going to be talking about kombucha. I'm still learning more about this every day. We've got a lot of customers that are loving using our kegs for their kombucha. From what I understand, it's a fermented tea. There's some good bacteria in there that's supposed to help out your tummy. Maybe you can give us a little bit more detailed breakdown of what this kombucha stuff is.
So I'm going to read here. This is something I got from Wikipedia. So it says kombucha is any of a variety of fermented, lightly effervescent, sweetened black or green tea drinks that are commonly intended as a functional beverage for health benefits. Kombucha is produced by fermenting tea using a symbolic colony of bacteria and yeast. So, and from this is what scoby is. So we'll be talking about scoby quite a bit. It's scoby. It's not Scooby-Dooby-Doo, which you think it is.
Zoinks.
So that's basically what I have as definition of kombucha.
Okay, well, on today's episode, we actually have a special guest. We have Tammy. She runs up our marketing with Petainer, and she also does sales in the South, taking care of Texas and Colorado and neighboring states. And the reason we brought you on today is because you've actually made kombucha for a while now at home. You're home brewing kombucha?
I was. So I started home brewing kombucha probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
When I used to live in Texas, I needed to get the scoby, so I went on Craigslist. I found...
Seems like a fitting place to get scoby.
Yeah.
Craigslist. Some guy had really long dreads.
No, it was actually a German girl.
She had a lot of cats. No,
I think she had one cat.
Okay.
And she worked at a local co-op supermarket, so very hippie-esque. And I took my glass container and I went to her apartment, this stranger that I just met at the grocery store, and she put we would call it a mother or mushroom, and it was basically what kind of you see in the bottom, but a thick pancake layer.
Okay.
She peeled it off of hers. She put it in my container. She put a little bit of liquid in there, put a lid on it. I took it home, and that's how I started my batch. So distilled water, you need the tea, and then you need to give it some kind of sugar source.
Okay.
So they recommend, back then it was just white table sugar. And yeah, I brewed my first batch, and then I just went from there, and I was just brewing it in multiple containers. I was, experimenting with different flavors. I had so much of it that I started feeding it to my coworkers because you always make more than you can ingest. So yeah, that's where my love came from. And back then, these guys were around, but there's so many new kombucha producers that have popped up, and the flavors have just become more and more interesting.
Right. I mean, we got this one from St. Louis, Companion Kombucha, and they've got hops in there.
Yeah,
which
this
is cool.
One smells really good, very aromatic.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, even Andy likes it.
Even Andy likes it, yeah.
So experimenting with flavors, so you do different teas, different sugars?
No, you always, from my brewing experience, you always brewed kind of like a plain batch, and then you added your flavors afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So I did simple things like grated ginger, which ginger is a big popular one.
Fan of ginger.
I do lemon, orange, anything. Sometimes you can infuse with lavender or basil or anything like that.
Cool.
So
there's no heating involved or anything.
there's no heating involved. I don't know what these guys do more on a commercial level, but at home it's just very simple. It's just...
And it's regular black tea?
Black or green.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't have to get a certain variety or anything?
No, you just, there's certain things you have to... you can't have any metal touching it, so it's always done in glass. And then it has to breathe a little bit, so the top of your vessel, we would do like cheesecloths with an elastic band around it. Your house smells a little bit like vinegar. That's really the only downside.
What about the alcohol? As it's fermenting, is it producing alcohol?
It is. So the more you feed it sugar, the more it ferments.
Sure.
So the higher the alcohol level. So typically you would only put sugar, and there's a recipe how much sugar you would put in a batch so big, and then it's just...
And then you know how you're going to finish out.
Yeah, so it might be like 0.2% alcohol.
Okay.
Because when we went to KombuchaCon, and there they actually served the kombucha, but they also had a vodka that was made from distilling the alcohol from.
No way.
Yeah, and we had martinis made. Well, I don't know whether they call them martinis or not, but from the vodka with I forget which one. It was a strawberry one or something, or
They had a couple of kombucha cocktails, they were
Yeah.
calling them, and they did a mule, which was interesting because they used the ginger kombucha, so they made like a Moscow Mule.
Yeah.
But instead of using ginger beer, they used ginger kombucha, and yeah, they had a couple of different
dig it.
cocktails that
Yeah.
were really
but
interesting.
but generally there are alcoholic kombuchas. So I've had some of those. So generally those would be produced with more sugar, but I would think that most kombucha is so low in alcohol that it's obviously classified as a non-alcoholic product.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Truly medicinal purposes only.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, so's the alcohol. Won't it?
And the grocery stores, the ones that do have the alcohol, have a little warning below, and they tend to put a different color on their caps.
Oh, okay.
They tend to be black. This one's black. It doesn't have any alcohol in it, but
This looks like medicine.
It does.
yeah, the shape of the
yeah,
bottle.
yeah.
Kombucha Con was very interesting too. They had so many different bottle types that, big ones, little ones, different colors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in front of us, we've got packaged kombucha in bottles. What we wanted to talk about today was
That's the kegs.
why people are loving using our Petainer kegs to package their kombucha.
Okay, but what's if you go to a lot of Whole Foods type places, those sort of health supermarkets places, a lot of these people have growler stations where and a growler is just basically a jug,
Yeah, so
generally
a gallon?
half a gallon, quarter gallon even, and you go there and you can pour the kombucha of your choice. We're finding with kombucha people, they're very it's a very much a craft thing, and with them, of course, they are very sort of environmentally friendly. So they like the idea of you reusing your glassware, filling up
Recyclable keg.
and all that stuff. So we've been dealing with kombucha companies for 4 years or so, maybe longer, and a lot of them started off using steel kegs. Corny kegs.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
But also steel kegs. And the issue for them is, as it was with a lot of microbrewers, is they don't have the equipment to wash and sterilize the kegs. Remember, we're putting bacteria
Super
into
funky stuff,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
And also the distribution and the cost, of course, of buying that equipment and kegs. But one thing we also found, and it's interesting, when we did the kombucha con, I did a lecture there, and there was someone there before me who was talking about regular kegs and things, and we found this too. Scoby basically, because it's in the product, it sort of, after a time, if you leave it in there, almost like crystallizes, and it becomes almost like concrete. And I went to one kombucha manufacturer in Portland who now uses our kegs, and they were trying to wash them, and the guy said, I can't even open the valve because after a time it just builds up and just clogs up, just like calcium would clog up in a pipe after a period of time. So this really it's a no-brainer for any product. It's really a no-brainer. You don't to clean that stuff out. You don't know if you send a keg out and you wait for 6 months for it to come out. It's sitting in the hot weather.
Right.
You're never going to be able to use that keg. And if you could, you're really got to wash it like you wouldn't believe. So with our keg, it's a one-way keg. It's ready to fill. So they don't have to buy any equipment or so forth. Just basically, if they want to fill manually, like a lot of them are, it's about $150 to buy a coupler that's been modified, and they can get into the business straight away. So clean fill every time. So really, out of all the products that Petainer is involved with, and we're getting more involved with lots of other stuff
Yeah, we're
as
finding
well,
that all the time.
all the time, is that really for kombucha, it really is the product to use. And it's fully recyclable as well, which is good for them. And
What's interesting to me, I just learned, I didn't realize that it turned into that stone. Because we always talk about keg losses with breweries,
with beer stone and so forth.
beer stone, or even just people not returning them.
Exactly.
But even if they return them to you, it's almost like you can't use it again.
Exactly.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
We're actually tasting some kombuchas today. What one are you sipping on?
Now I'm drinking the lavender.
The lavender.
Which I
So
really
talking
like.
about putting flavors in after it's all done. You have rosé all day or something?
Rosé all day. Yeah.
This one here.
Oh, you're doing the medicine one.
Yeah.
Bubbly
Okay,
rosé.
yeah. I got the hopped one. The guys in St. Louis campaigning kombucha.
What about
They're funky. I mean, I feel like at least I'm doing something good for myself. I guess I
feel
would
healthy?
rather have the hard ones.
You feel healthier than you did.
I do feel a little bit healthier today. Yeah.
He had
Helping my
buffalo wings for lunch.
So
he's
this is
having
helping them out.
kombucha,
Yeah, that's how you counteract it.
balancing it out? Pink Lady Basil.
Okay, I'll try
Sounds
that one
delicious.
next. But I think we're going to wrap this up for episode 3, Petainer Podcast. Andy Brewer, our technical director, Tammy, marketing, sales, and yours truly, Dave Tennis. Thanks for tuning in again.
Cheers.
And we'll keep bringing these out to you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Salud. Whew.